All right, guys, I'm at Fort Caroline Preserve, and I'm gonna go check out the fort and show it to you because we just talked about that in class today and you guys seemed so excited. You will be quizzed on this. It's actually called the Timucuan Ecological and Historic Preserve and is run by the National Park Service, but this is where they've done the large-scale model of Fort Caroline, so what Jean Ribault and the Huguenots originally stayed in. And here we are right on the St. John's River, aka the River of May. And I believe that was named by Jean Ribault when he came here in 1562. He came and did another expedition, but he ended up setting up a fort in South Carolina, I believe. And now I'm on the trail to the fort. Okay, so that's the entrance to the fort, and then you can see how there's some of the ground is sort of built up on the edges, and there's some wood structures to provide protection. And this isn't the actual size of the fort, like I was saying previously. This is just a large-scale model, and if I can find a ranger, I will ask if they have any idea exactly what the scale is compared to the original. Oh, and also up there you can see that's the fleur-de-lis, which we'll talk about that in class some more too. Yeah, so I was looking at this sign right over here where it talks about a bloody massacre, and we talked earlier about how Spain, they were able to regain control of Florida from France, and that's what this is basically talking about right now. And I know that this says that it was September 20th of 1565, hurricane season, and that was when Pedro Menendez attacked the fort, and I guess 130 people died here at the fort. And then it says that 70 colonists were able to flee and just escape. That after that took place, and Menendez had taken over Fort Caroline, he ended up renaming this area San Mateo, which is why you'll probably recognize that name as you start looking around at street signs and maybe the school you go to or the area you live in. You probably are starting to recognize some of these French and Spanish names, and maybe it's starting to make some sense to you now too about why they would have named them that. I just found this little informational chart also that I wanted to share with you guys because it does talk about what we talked about previously with Pedro Menendez being able to track down the French sailors that had previously left with Jean Ribault, and they had left to go down to Saint Augustine and to attack them, but then were caught in a hurricane, swept down to the Matanzas Inlet. The Spanish were able to track them down, and they did end up executing all of them except for apparently about 30 of them who were Catholic. They were craftsmen or they were musicians, so somebody that they found useful. And that Matanzas is actually a Spanish word for slaughters. So even in that, in places that we still go by those names, and they're known for these very important things that happened historically, which I find really interesting. And I hope you do too.